So just let us know.
You're on.
Oh,
That didn't take long at all.
that was a good one.
Boom, boom, boom. I'll tell you what.
First time wonder. Now the camera's just pointing straight at just at you. There we go. So
Yeah.
we're good. We're good. We're doing a different angle today, but let's talk a little bit of what's been going on here lately before we really dive into it. So, how are you? Welcome to Reborn TV.
Reborn TV.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in on this late night show.
.us.
.us.
or .gov.
No, don't put .gov. Then they're going to want to regulate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need that on my channel.
Or like some federal judge will have tell us that we have to stop.
Right? Yeah. So we never said that. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Anyways, what's new with you?
Man, we got what do they call it? Episode 4. I think we got completed on our New Believers Bible study, and we're getting a lot of hits. That's awesome. I thought I was going to have 5 or 6 that had asked about a New Believers Bible study, and we got 30, 40 on the first one, and then there you can see them working through it because you'll see boop, this goes up, and boop, that goes up.
I love looking at those charts, especially, and y'all know I look at them, but especially see where like the die-off point is, and I can definitely tell if we're talking too long, that die-off point's really short. Yeah. Which I don't blame y'all. I mean, it is a video and stuff.
I told them I've actually put it in the notes on the last one. I go, you see it for 50 minutes. It's like it didn't last 50 minutes. I started early,
right,
and then I just start talking and bringing up stuff until the time starts, and then I start. So the Bible study's 35 minutes or so, maybe.
Yeah.
Now the first time we did it to explain what we're doing and all the notes and stuff that they could get access to. But even that, just the lesson itself was about 30 minutes. So I'm trying to really run through it so that they don't,
for sure.
Or I'll come back and look at it. And that may be what's happening too. Okay, I'll watch this and I'll watch some more later on. But I can't tell that in the analytics when I'm looking at it. But that's one thing that's going on. We're rocking and rolling here at the church as well.
Yeah, same's going on with Reborn. I did notice a function in the YouTube studio that I'm going to try to kind of dive into and learn a little bit more about, and that's you're able to actually convert your videos into a straight audio podcast format. So I need to see how that works out and try to convert a lot of these, because I know it's a lot easier to listen while you're doing things than sitting down watching and one grumpy old man and one mediocre middle-aged person talk it out with some teen. It's probably not the funnest.
You've been doing these without me?
No, but no, I really need to look into that, because I think that would be probably beneficial for a lot of the viewers just to be able.
I had a lot of people when we were doing some other videos before, they go, if you could get like our services converted over, like when I'm driving and stuff.
And
that's
it totally makes sense, because I mean, if you want to listen to it, then obviously you have to have a video up, and I wouldn't recommend putting it on your dashboard, your phone, and trying to drive and watch if we're going to do anything,
Although
dumb.
we've seen that. I saw a shirt that says a T-shirt that said, what does it say? The studies are in. You are the only one that can drive and text at the same time.
If I had a quarter for every time I've seen something interesting happen while someone's driving, I would probably be rich. I think I've seen it all.
The one I've seen is people, of course, eating, but the one that really I just don't. They're reading a book, and they have the book right there, and they're driving. I'm like, and how are you doing this? Because I haven't seen you look up yet.
Right.
And the problem is, I'm looking at you, and I haven't looked over.
I can't forget where I'm at in this paragraph. Just like, no, I think we say food. I saw someone eating with chopsticks.
Oh, wait a second.
It had a bowl of noodles and eating with chopsticks, and
so someone's driving.
They're going like this, and I'm like, I don't know if that's skillful or not, but I am not paying attention to what I'm doing.
That's some pie may skills, right?
Right, exactly. But no, other than that, everything's going good. I think everybody that's been always tuning in and jumping on.
How did the raffle thing? Did you guys get that all done?
We're still working on it. I do have a hard date now for the actual official raffle itself. We're going to do the drawing on June 20th. We're still working on some ideas to assemble for the little the rewards. We kind of want to make it kind of nice, not just like a typical Bible and t-shirt. We want to include additional stuff to that. Maybe like a new believer's book with it as well. Or, if the person who won is a really young person, I'll see if they're interested in what we do in collection of the hobby, if they want some of the cards to give to their kids or themselves. I kind of want to make it where it's a little bit more meaningful and rewarding for just hanging
for our
out
older
with us.
viewers, if they want
a Luby's gift card
you gave to me.
Oh yeah, that too.
Lenny Dawson. We don't have a Lenny Dawson.
I got a Mickey Mantle. I could throw it.
Oh,
I don't think I could do that.
That would be a little tough.
But speaking of Mantle and sports cards and everything, there's a quarterback that was coming from your days.
From my days. I just found out when you was telling me that me and I are the same age.
Y'all are the same age. But
you're looking 42? Yeah, 42.
Yeah, once I say the name, they're going to be like, oh, that's not right at all. What really surprised me, this was a really good story because, we did the Johnny Manziel one and we did Jaden Daniels, and we saw exactly like just
your soccer guy.
Yeah, and Kaká and but it's just I love doing these type of episodes because it intrigues me, because you can definitely see that everyone has a different path, especially when it comes to God. Like, it could take a person literally from the day that they were born, or take them in their teenage years, their mid years, some type of crisis, like what we're going to really talk into, all the way, especially this one, and realizing that this person was baptized in 2023.
Yeah.
And this person, very, very well. And I know a lot of the mature audience and some actually in the youth probably still know, because he is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he is
football folks would probably know.
Absolutely. I mean, the name is pretty obvious. Is Jim Kelly.
Right.
And he played with the Buffalo Bills, and he was a good quarterback. I mean, I've read a lot about him and stuff. And
wasn't he an almost? I mean,
he was an almost Super Bowl winner.
Was that the one that was he the quarterback when
Staubach?
No, he's later than that.
He's later.
Lott, or not? What's his name? Leon Lett.
Leon Lett.
I don't know if he was the quarterback back then or not.
That I'm not
for sure. Is he a Troy Aikman vintage?
It would have to be in the Aikman era.
It might have been when they
because
played
Aikman's in his
ball.
late 50s, early 60s. Because Aikman is younger than Kelly, not by much.
Maybe he is older.
Yeah, not by much. Because before Aikman who was before Aikman? Now I can't remember. He took him and got him a Super Bowl. He only won once, but
it's not Staubach.
It wasn't Staubach. Staubach was way before that. It was why am I thinking?
Tony Romo.
Romo was way after.
Really?
Romo was.
Oh, he was
before
he
Dak.
was backup. He was a backup. That's right.
Romo was backup not to Aikman. Romo was backup to Bledsoe.
Oh, that's right.
Drew Bledsoe.
That's right.
And he was Patriots.
Right.
Yeah, quiz me on football. I still know good knowledge of it.
I can't remember who was in. Oh, it was. Oh man, what's his name?
As we're here, just giving you statistics, bouncing back and forth, arguing about it. But
who was the guy? I can see. White. Danny White.
White. Yes,
Danny
White was before Aikman. Yes, he got him. He got him one ring.
I had to call you this morning about 4.
Yeah,
Danny White.
Well, that's probably the same thing would happen. It probably would actually be me randomly yelling in the middle of the series, because that's happened a lot before in the middle of conversations. Yep. But yeah, Jim Kelly. So I mean, and if we can, I'll try to have Kaya plug in the podcast name, but it's called Grace Begins Podcast, and they did an episode with Jim Kelly, and it amazed me the boldness that he had in this podcast, because I don't know. To me, I feel like some people wouldn't want to be extremely bold exactly every bad thing that they've ever done. And I feel like, some people say always keep your skeletons in the closet type of scenario.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of applaud him, because he's showing exactly all the wrongdoings that he knew were wrong and what made him correct it. So it was like a double-edged sword in my head, thinking like, oh man, you're just giving all the laundry out. But at the same time, but I kind of applaud you, because you're explaining exactly what led you this whole path to where you end up being today.
Yeah, I think some of the things you're going to share, he shows his awareness of God's presence and of God's grace and his judgment at the same time.
Yes,
Stuff going on.
absolutely. And what I applaud the most that stuck through him and everything was his wife, who was a firm believer and everything. Because during his youth up to his draft day, it said he said that I am a Roman Catholic, but didn't know what a Roman Catholic was. He said I went to church and all that stuff, but he just did it because he was made to do it. So he announced what type of denomination he was and what he felt like that was what's supposed to be, and just to attend and stuff like that, kind of like our CEO jokes. But what amazed me the most was the fact that everything really went sour was during how he flat out says there's a place for God, there's a place for sports, and there's a place for business. And he diversified everything.
Yeah.
He flat out admits that there's no reason why I need to plug God into this and why I need to plug God into this. God has nothing to do with all that. He has to do what happens at the house. And that we already know that's strike 1, 2, and 3 right there.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to diversify faith from everything else, because then you're not going to get the balance.
Yep. People think they can compartmentalize God, and that ain't how it works. You don't get a part of it. It's like saying, well, I'm married when I'm at home, but I'm not when I'm at work. It's like,
right.
Well, no,
you're the same
ask
thing.
Ask your wife, ask your spouse. I bet they'll tell you.
Right. And in one of his quotes, he goes, I knew that each and every day that I stepped onto the football field or basketball court, I stepped out of the house of God and stepped into the house of plays. And that's just, that comment alone is just so bold, because you're saying like, my talent comes from me and me only, not from him, but comes from me. I won't lie. I tried pulling that card before when I was really into soccer and really good at it. My leg got snapped in half after pulling that card.
Yeah.
Literally.
You got to listen. You got to listen when God's talking.
Because when you say that I'm better than God in any aspect, that's where the definition of being humbled comes into play.
Yeah, I listen to people go, well, I'm not giving God my money because, I went into debt. He didn't do anything. Well, hold on a second now.
Right.
I've watched him quickly take it away, so you got to be careful with those kind of thought processes in general. It's like, God didn't do any of this.
And what's interesting more is that after watching that podcast, I kind of wanted to watch some of his highlight reels again. And kind of like how I was talking about with not Manziel, it was oh my gosh, now I'm going blank. Oklahoma boy, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
It was the Mayfield story. Not, why would I say Manziel of all people? That's like the bar. But I knew exactly, like watching Mayfield, you absolutely could tell who he was, like his personality, what he views things as. So I was curious. I was like, okay, let's watch Jim Kelly plays and stuff and his interviews. And I was really watching at it. And yeah, he was not subtle about that in any of his interviews. Like he flat out would admit that this is all my passion, my dreams, my work ethic.
Yep.
All this work is Jim Kelly's work. And in the same on the field, like I didn't realize that he was a brute. I mean, besides on the field, like he could take hits and he knew how to do plays.
He was one of the big ones.
He was a big dude
when you just watch him on TV.
Right.
But then when you see him, he's standing there right next to those linemen.
Right. He was not a tiny built person.
He's a big guy too.
Aikman was a big guy, and I never really paid attention to that till he in the broadcast room where he's towering over this tiny other guy.
Yeah. I stood next to him and Novacek.
Novacek's a big dude.
Yeah, they looked the same size, and me and another guy was walking into a restaurant. They were walking out, and it was like, holy smoke! That's tall. I'm 6 foot, and these guys, I was looking up to them.
Right, and it amazes me too about when it comes to their stature and stuff. But and speaking of statures, like you thinking of all these athletes that they have such a stature in life. Like, they hold themselves and their accountability and their career very, very high, and their ego grows with it.
Sure.
Jim Kelly apparently had that ego problem,
I
like
think so.
big time, especially when he was never a true Super Bowl winner.
Yeah,
but he always took them there.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Well, yeah, bus will take you there too.
Yeah. Get you a spot on the bench too.
Yeah.
But what he was talking about in this interview was probably more interesting was the fact that he spoke about how troublesome he actually went into a very dark path with his life was because of his son.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if many people knew about his story about his son, but he had a younger son who was the age of 8 when he passed away. And I tried to figure out what it was that he passed from, but I couldn't really find much information.
I remember when we'd watch football that they would, that's one of those, what do they call it? The personality profiles that they would do.
Yeah.
And that would always, this is what's driving him. This is what's motivating him. I remember seeing some of that. I just don't remember what it was the kid had.
And it's funny you mentioned that because he actually speaks a little bit about that. And when they did those motivational videos that they have and stuff, like when they recap a person's life and career, he said he regretted that. Because he said back then, no thought. That's what I felt like was motivating me. But he said today in this time where after all my tribulation stuff, no, he would never do that again. He says that he regrets doing something like that because he pretty much isolated himself from what really.
I imagine that some of the other football players has done some of that crazy stuff. They're probably going, what was I doing?
Right. No, yeah, for sure.
But
it's like you're turning into a drama episode when it comes to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after the age of 8, when his son passed away, he noted how every time he would come home, there was 4 or 5 additional people in his house, including nurses and doctors and stuff. And then after the son passed, he goes, the house felt silent.
Yeah.
He said it turned into an empty abyss in his heart. It turned into a hollow home that he never wanted to be a part of. It made him pull away from his other children, his wife, where he became unfaithful with. And he said that's where everything really started to spiral because his wife, who duked it out with him and everything, kept trying to push faith during that time, and he had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Because he said in his quote, and here was another one, like I was telling you how bold it was about it, he said, why would God give him this problem to begin with?
Yeah.
And you know what? And
that's the bad theology that people have, that I must be doing the right thing because look how God's blessing me. That is not a sign.
No. And I think that is, and when he said that, I think it was like an instant light bulb in my head because I was like, that is the most common thing said.
Yep.
When it comes to anything is when a family member, a child, anything in those categories that has been diagnosed with cancer or a medical disease or a lost loved one, it is immediately followed by, but why would God allow that?
Yeah.
If your God is so good, why does that happen? And it just, to me, is just, it's a bold statement.
Yeah. It's the old question of if God's so loving, why does he allow these things to happen? And if God's so loving, why is there evil in the world? And you see, just like David, when he had committed adultery with Bathsheba, she had the baby. She got pregnant. She had the baby, and then God told David the baby's going to die. And people go, I can't believe God would do that. You know what? If I knew that my kids were going to grow up and they would not be saved, then I'm going to make sure that they can by virtue of, I'm not espousing this to anybody, but
right.
I mean, because you take that seriously. And David made the comment, he goes, and he gives us hope. He says, my son, it can't come back to me, but I'll go to him, which we know David went to heaven. So he knows where this child's at. And so that's a comfort to others by virtue of that what happens to him. I've done funerals out at Skyview, and I tell, when I have to do that they call it Babyland. When I have to do those funerals there, I tell them, I said, there's 20,000 people in this grave, in this cemetery. And the only ones that I could tell you for sure are with Jesus is in Babyland. They're there.
Absolutely.
It gives the parents comfort.
Absolutely.
And rightfully so. I think God, in David's pain, David's pain has brought comfort to a lot of people. When the baby dies at birth, or like with Jim Kelly, and that there's a comfort in knowing, my child is, with the Lord. Says, well, why would God take a child? God's time and our time is a totally different reflex, right?
It's irrelevant.
Yeah. So anything you can do to get to heaven sooner, or get to be with Jesus sooner, you know, if we understand that, it's sad,
Mhm.
but at least there's hope,
Right.
right?
And I know this conversation is taking a little bit of a
It's
darker
getting dark, but
on it,
it's
but
Jim Kelly's
it's
fault. If he'd have won the Super Bowl, we wouldn't have gone dark.
that just took a left turn over there. But no, you're not right about the Super Bowl part, but you're right about everything else because it's always when
But
I've
that's the
had
darkness he was in.
that was absolutely, and that's what I was about to say. Is like through those darkness paths. I mean, those are literally the mindsets that everyone have, and I've had it turns into a hard conversation. It really
Oh yeah, it
does,
does.
especially when I've had to have that conversation before with a buddy who, lost someone in their family and they question it like that. It's hard.
Sure.
It's hard for both parties.
It absolutely is.
And that's why you as the believer have to make sure that you have all the knowledge and the comfort and the love that you can be able to provide and show that there's still grace behind all that.
Yep. I think what you were telling me about that, based on the trials that Jim Kelly went through, that's the one that got him past Roman Catholic into I'm a child of God.
Right, exactly. So because and not only that, there's a couple more instances that he's still and I know it takes time for people to fall back towards God's path, but how long do you want to endure it? And Jim endured it for a very, very long time, it looks like, because
How long you want to fight with God?
right, exactly. How the real question is, do
wins?
you think you're gonna win against God?
Yeah.
Right. But we always talk about blast zones and stuff, and we always try to talk about the positivity of our blast zones. Well, here's a good example of the negativity that blast zone can cause because of that incident and everything, and allowing the voidance in the household and the emptiness and the arguing and just
That's with his wife.
yeah, and all that stuff and the questioning stuff. He created a negative impact, a negative blast on his house where he knew, and the wife was actually starting to grow further apart after all that work that she's been trying to get him close and show him love and be there for him, and him rejecting it. That causes a negative blast zone.
Sure.
And that's why it's also very important to show the strength behind your faith, because you'll go like they did. They went through a time where now they're pulling apart from each other. So now you lost not only your child, but now you're losing your teammate that you're supposed to battle everything hand in hand with.
Yeah. That's why there has to be a differentiation. And this isn't the primary subject I know we're on, but there has to be a differentiation between the marriage, between the husband and the wife and the kids. There's the parents can focus so much on the kids that they forget to focus on each other. You wait for 18 years, because you're focusing on the kids. 18 years later, no one's in the house but you and the other person, and you don't know them anymore.
Right. And it's hard. It's very, very hard. And not only that.
Well, sometimes you got to tell the kids, you're going here because we're going here.
Right.
Right.
But and this is we talked a little bit about this before we went live, and this was, I thought, the most bold comment that I think I've ever heard come out of anybody's mouth, which we always joke about hearing stuff like that, but to finally find someone who physically said it is what I think was more shocking. When he goes to it and says to his wife, if being a Christian is being like you, I don't want to be one.
Yeah. That's a good or bad, right? So if they're looking at you and you're not living a Christian life, they go, if that's what Christianity is, I don't want it. That's not good. But when she's living, and I think she was, you said she was living for Christ and she was doing what she's supposed to do, and he just didn't like it. He didn't like it. I bet, I don't know. Maybe you can tell. I bet there was a piece that she had that he couldn't stand. There was a piece in
there
her
had to
life
been, because
that where he's going, how come you're not tore up like me?
Right.
Right. Because I know where my child's at. And
right. Exactly.
It doesn't mean I'm not sad.
And he said he hated that so much because he endured that forced opinion and faith on him. He said Kelly suggested that he didn't appreciate having this Christian faith forced on him, especially when it was during his NFL career.
Yeah.
He indicated that his wife always looked towards a different approach, and that she would always end up being with him on the long run, but he didn't appreciate it because that long run was her always influencing
what God wants you to do.
Right.
What God wants you to do. Yeah.
And And I guess because I live a different lifestyle and my wife's always been good, like if I had a bad day or anything like that, it's
Sorry,
like
you're
what
for that.
if I sing it, everybody would tune off. But
That's all I know. That's
yeah, if you had a bad, yeah.
Yeah.
But if I had things like that and everything, I always could trust my wife
Mhm.
because she always kind of like, even though I was not in that right mental state, she literally would slap it out of me and be like, "Hey, Jesus loves you." No,
Yeah.
but
He's the only one, but he loves you.
yeah, he loves you, not me right now, but he loves you. So be lucky.
Yeah, don't push it.
But she would always say, "It's like, I know you didn't get that position or anything, but that's probably because God has a different path for you." And being interviewed and stuff like that. I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but kind of
No.
goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Is the fact that going through all that over and over and getting rejected over and over, it got hard on me, and it just started like making me overthink. Like, am I really not qualified? Am I doing
Yeah.
something wrong? But it was the same. I'm here trying to force my path that I shouldn't have forced. And God's telling me to come back because I have a better path for you. And he
Mhm.
absolutely did.
Yep.
Once I got into this role and everything that I'm in now, it is literally the grass is greener on it because I'm in a department now that embraces more and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it operates better and a
Yeah.
better team and no happy hour drinks and stuff like that. Like
Yep.
it is definitely a path that I have been very blessed with.
Yep.
And for him to be the opposite, the polar opposite of what my view was, and saying that God has a better path for you and all that, and him saying that has nothing to do with what I'm doing now.
Right. Well, he compartmentalized it.
Right.
Right. So it's like God, I didn't let God get in over here. Well, guess what? God didn't ask your permission when he goes over there
Right.
because over there belongs to him too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
A
I
lot
think
of people do that. I interviewed a guy one time and he goes, he told me, I didn't say anything, but he came up and says, well, he used the C word. He said, I'm a Christian, but means no, you're not a Christian. But he goes, but my church life is my church life and my work life is my work life. And it's like, okay, I didn't hire him, but it's like, yeah, I don't want you to do that because there's some times in the computer field that you just need someone to pray because
Right.
you don't know what's going on, but yeah, that the compartmentalization never works and people get mad.
Yeah.
When it's like, wait a second, I didn't invite God here. You don't invite him. You're the invited guest, not
Right.
him. Right.
What was more interesting was the fact that when he was talking about all that, how she was always trying to press on and press on. He said the one thing he gave props to her about is the fact that she was consistent.
Yeah.
No matter what the scenario was, no matter what happened,
You knew what she was
going to say what you knew what she was going to say.
Even after the baby died, though,
Even
after the
baby
8-year-old died, then he got sick too, right?
He did, yeah. So he actually, I'm kind of going through his whole timeline and
Okay.
everything, which is pretty interesting because that was when he went through the first round of cancer.
Yeah.
I
That
didn't
was
know
after he got out of football, right? Or what?
shortly
Okay,
after
okay.
football and everything. And what was more interesting was the fact that what kind of gave him the slow wake up wasn't the first cancer, wasn't the second one. It was actually his mother-in-law.
I could see that.
And it's funny because we always joke about how you fear the mother-in-law. And I mean, I guess this is a good example that the mother-in-law doesn't hold back when things need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And he said that Kelly cited that there was an intervention with the mother-in-law.
Oh, she was asked to be there. Huh?
She was asked to be there, and she pretty much flat out told him, was like, if you don't change your life, you're going to lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very bold about it. So you're going to not only lose yourself, you'll lose your wife, you lose your kids, you lose everything you worked for, your name, your foundations, all that. She said, kiss them goodbye.
Yeah.
If you don't change what you're doing
all those
now.
different compartments that you had, God can take them all away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I love because she did what many people wouldn't do, and that's to just flat out be like, you're not living the life. Like your wife has been patient and been with you, and you went and did all this to her, but I'm here to tell you you're wrong.
Right.
And
nobody likes to hear that.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not catching the hints from God himself,
Yeah.
let me go ahead and give you the hints.
Right over here. That's true.
So, and he said that that's when he was thinking of that God was saying, okay, you're giving up on me. Let me see what you got then.
Right.
And it's almost true. I mean, if you're really wanting to test God in an endurance battle, I'm pretty
Yep.
sure the person who has the eternal life is
Yeah.
going to outlive you on that one.
Yeah. Well,
On
Jacob wrestled
patience.
with God, and he found out, you know what? I can keep wrestling and wrestling and wrestling, and it'll never stop. It'll never end. I
Mhm.
like to tell folks, if they know the story, they know that the angel, that Christ, touched his hip and caused his hip to go out, and he limped after that. And it's a great metaphor for you wrestle with God and wrestle with God. When you finally give up, your walk changes.
Right.
Your walk changes, and so he changed a little bit.
I think he was in a wheelchair for the majority of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't limping.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he had his legs
yeah.
taken out that he wanted
He
to.
had his leg taken out for sure. And then you got another one like Jonah that goes, "I'm not going to do that," and God goes, "Yeah, you are." Now you don't have to, but here's your alternative. I'm going to give you a room with no view. Right.
Exactly.
Right. So,
But it was good to see that after a while that, Jim Kelly actually,
what's it, the third one where he got saved?
yeah.
Yeah.
So he discussed Kelly discusses 4 battles with cancer. And then on the 4th one is actually
Oh, before
where he
one.
credited God because his survival rate for that one was 2%. Because that was, I guess, because it was stage 1, the first 3, and I guess it was probably stage 3.
I can't remember what it was, which cancer it
I
was.
can't
but
remember
yeah.
either, and it doesn't say in his article and on his conversation. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look into it more, but it was the last one that finally kind of woke him up.
Mhm.
And it's after he had to endure a 12-hour surgery. And
Must have been brain. It must have been a brain surgery. Something in his brain.
I need to look into it and figure out what
He
it
got
is.
hit enough times in the head.
He got hit enough for sure. But his one of his decent quotes, I say decent because all of them has just been pretty blunt.
Yeah.
Is when he goes, when I went through all that, and I knew that God was doing in my life, I know now why he put me through all of that.
Mhm.
To test my faith, to see that I lost my faith, but he never gave up on me. And then I knew that's where my home truly was.
Yeah.
And that was a quote from him. And that's where I was like, that to me, and especially at such a late age,
Mhm.
because then I guess that's where he probably had the realization that if he didn't fix or change anything, he knew at that point
Yeah.
where his life would end up being.
The older that a person gets, it seems the harder it is for them to come to the realization of who is not the center of the universe.
Right.
Right. God is, not me.
Yeah. And
Getting off that throne of your heart is hard to do.
And then he finally ends his whole podcast. He goes, he's the only reason that I'm still here, but my wife, my daughters, and the life that they put and didn't stop for me, I thank God every day for it.
Yeah.
So to know that
sounds humbling.
Humbling for sure. Like you can tell, like from how the conversation started off, and it's not him. It was just him telling like what he went through and his views at that time was, but how his views were at that point to where you saw where the humbleness was to where he sees life at a different approach that he ended up getting baptized in 2023.
Yeah. I thought it was a lot earlier than that, but it just goes to show you that walk of getting, that journey of getting to God through Christ, and then taking those steps of obedience like baptism.
Right. And like I said earlier, like, and I don't know how we're doing on time or anything, but I find these type of articles more and more intriguing because not, we see everything in one dimension, right? Like we see everything that we can through our own eyes, but we don't experience or see what other people go through in the heart, pain, or the joy that they have experienced to get them on what path that they have gotten themselves towards.
Yeah.
And to see people that you've watched on TV and stuff like that, where, and I know a lot of people are like, well, they're celebrities, they live the $1 million life, they have it all. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Some of them genuinely do not have that. Yep. Because as you see it from the cover of the book, as soon as you open their story, they're a whole different person in the inside. Yeah. And they went through a whole different path to get to where they are now. Sure, this Jim was an all-star Hall of Fame quarterback, but that's all he had.
Yeah.
After
there was more to him than just what he did.
Right.
Yeah.
You take that away, and if you take the Jim Kelly that was there and you see that he was not the person that you would want to ever hang out with, he has nothing.
Yeah.
Except for the dollar bills behind his name.
Yeah. When an unbeliever loses all that, they've lost everything, their identity. When a believer loses that, they just lost a job. They're still a child of God.
Right.
So.
And I think I like the part where he mentions a lot that his family was the rock that he never paid attention to.
Yeah.
Like no matter what happened, those two like seriously still endured the
mother and the mother-in-law,
the mother-in-law and the daughter.
Oh.
But it doesn't talk much about the daughter, but he thanks her for also being a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But to know that in the background, you've had this support system that you never paid attention to.
Sure.
That they wouldn't let you fall deeper and deeper or try to pull you out of that hole every time. To me, that's just...
At the same time, what he thought he wasn't paying attention to was probably a catalyst in him getting saved, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we always say, plant the seed and just keep watering it.
Yep.
Eventually it'll sprout and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Like I said, to me, I think it's pretty cool because you're getting a different perspective of life.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who's finally found God.
Yep.
And that's what I'm starting to really find more interested in when we do topics like this, because it could, like I said earlier, it could take a person a couple years, it could take a person till you're your age.
Jim Kelly.
60s. It could happen at Luby's.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would never know.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for the Luby's joke from once. But I'm
going
to make a Luby's shirt.
I've eaten one time at Luby's because I thought it was a smorgasbord, all you can eat.
Is it not?
It is not.
It's not? I thought it was a buffet place.
Nope. Nope. And that's like, well, it's actually right up here in Everman, Forest Hill. I went there and it's like, we can't go back? No. It's like, well, I'm not coming back.
How are we on time?
37.
I'm gonna probably leave. We'll wind down on this one because this next one's actually, I'll kind of give you a little bit of an intro to it, but this goes into another. This one's actually towards a team, and it's a team in the EPL, which is the European Premier League, and it's called Crystal Palace.
Soccer.
Yeah. So Crystal Palace is the team, and they call the story David versus Goliath because it was a smaller club versus a monstrous club, Manchester City. And yes, they are legit a powerhouse team and stuff, and they ended up winning the championship against them. But the story behind it was what was super awesome, and it comes from the captain, from the team and everything, and how he was with the club for 13 years, and he always made sure he wrote Ephesians 3:20 on his wrist before every game.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly, his teammates were slowly doing it with him. And then what was really cool is that after each goal celebration that he did, he literally went to the corner of the field and he prayed. He bowed down and he started praying and everything. And then it went from him only to 2 players to 3 players to almost the whole team. Of course, the keeper can't leave his box because if they would be not a good sign because then the box is open for a goal. But the whole team would actually join him and pray for that goal and go back. So it's a cool story that I want to get into in the next one. So for sure.
Sounds cool.
But other than that, if you haven't tuned in or subscribed to Brother Ez's channel, that's Tabernacle Baptist Church of Rendon on YouTube every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. He does the New Believers. If you have not watched any, it's okay. You're on YouTube. He has a library. You can start from the first episode and eventually catch up on your own time.
A lot of people are doing that. Yep.
And that's the best part of what I love about YouTube. It saves all your videos that you do. So it's like you can purge in like a full season of it. But I know I didn't get to ask any of the pop-up questions today, but they will be on Facebook. So if you go on our Facebook page, we'll have 2 questions popped up on there. So if you answer them, you will get an entry to our drawing. The final date will be also posted on there, which will be June 20th. And we'll do it on our live episode.
Okay.
We're still working on the details and trying to get the really spicy ramens for me and Kaya's ramen challenge.
Oh, man.
We're going to get some Bible questions asked to us on different intensities where we start off hard with no heat and do really, really easy with the intensive heat and see how well we can operate.
Who are you banking on there, Kaya?
It's
Who are you banking on, you or him? Oh,
Me.
her.
it's going to be me at the end. Trust me.
Mm,
There's no I in team, but there is a me.
there's a me in team.
But so be ready to.
And there's a meat.
And there is meat.
An 8.
Ooh, 8. And speaking of food, that's what's calling me at home. But I want to thank everybody for always tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to our other platforms, our TikTok, our Facebook, our Instagram, where we'll have posted stuff on there daily. Be on the lookout for new projects that we're going to start kind of queuing in on there as little teasers and stuff. We got a lot of things in the works that we're really working on when it comes to our new episodes and shorts. So be on the lookout for that. And honestly, like always, thank you for joining Reborn. 4 are in, 1 is out. We're offline.
Oh, I